Welcome to another episode of Explained by AI.
Hey.
Today we're heading skyward for a deep dive into the world of clouds.
Yeah, clouds.
Ever looked up and just wondered what those shapes floating around are all about?
I mean, who hasn't?
We'll break down how they form the different types and even how they affect our weather and climate change.
A lot more to clouds than meets the eye.
Okay, so to start, how does something as seemingly simple as water vapor become those massive things we see in the sky?
Well, it starts with evaporation, right? Water turns into water vapor and rises up into the atmosphere.
Yeah, man.
Well, as that vapor rises, it gets colder, and cold air can't hold as much moisture as warm air.
Yeah.
So the vapor condenses it, turns back into tiny liquid droplets or even ice crystals.
So then we've got all these little droplets or ice crystals. Are they just kind of floating around separately? How do they turn into those cloud shapes?
You need a gathering point, right? Like a nucleus. Tiny particles like dust, pollen, sea salt, all that stuff acts as what we call condensation nuclei. They're surfaces for the water droplets or ice crystals to cling to.
So they stick together and...
And as more stick together, they get big enough to scatter light and we can see them, and that's a cloud.
Wow. I'm already looking at clouds differently.
Right.
And I'm guessing depending on what those nuclei are or how high up they are or the temperature, we get different types of clouds.
Exactly. We classify clouds by how high they are, their shape, and what they're made of.
Okay.
And there's a lot more variety than you might think. Let's start up high in the atmosphere above 6 kilometers. It's so cold up there, the clouds are mostly ice crystals.
Oh, wow.
Those high clouds, like the feathery cirrus clouds, they can be a sign that the weather's about to change.
So if I see cirrus clouds, rain's coming.
Not right away, but they can be a heads up, maybe rain in the next day or two. Another high cloud is the cirrostratus cloud. They make the sky look kind of milky, and they often make a halo around the sun or moon. Those guys are usually a better sign that rain's on the way.
A halo around the sun. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch for that. Are there other high clouds?
There are, but let's go a little lower down to the mid-level clouds, between 2 and 6 kilometers up. They're often grayer and thicker and can mean heavier rain or even snow. Like altostratus clouds, they make a solid gray sheet across the sky, dim the sun, and they often get a long period of rain or snow.
So if the sky looks like someone painted it gray, I should get my umbrella.
Probably a good idea. Now, if you see patches of white or gray clouds with shadows, those are altocumulus clouds, and they can mean thunderstorms are coming.
Storms, huh? Always cool to watch. What about even lower? What kind of clouds are down near the ground?
Below 2 kilometers, you get the low clouds, and those are the ones that usually bring the less exciting weather. Stratus clouds, those are the classic flat gray ones that make it all foggy and sometimes bring a little rain or mist. Then there's stratocumulus clouds. Those are darker layered clouds with brighter gaps. They don't usually bring rain, but they can make the sky look pretty gloomy.
So the lower the clouds, the worse the weather. But wait, there's one more category. Those giant clouds that seem to go through all the levels of the atmosphere.
Ah, yes, the vertically developed clouds. Those are the showstoppers. They can grow from low down all the way up high, and they can bring some serious weather. Like those fluffy white ones we see on nice days, cumulus clouds. They usually mean good weather, but...
What happens when those nice cumulus clouds turn bad?
Well, they can turn into their big brother, the cumulonimbus cloud. They're the giants. They go way up high and bring heavy rain, hail, even tornadoes.
Whoa, so those cute little cotton balls can turn into storm clouds. That's a little scary. Are there any other cloud formations that don't really fit into a category?
Oh, yeah, some really cool ones that don't fit in those normal categories. One that people sometimes think is a UFO is the lenticular cloud. It's smooth and shaped like a saucer, and you usually see them near mountains.
Lenticular clouds.
They form when there's strong wind blowing over mountain peaks. It makes these waves in the air, and the clouds form in those wave shapes.
So they look kind of alien.
Yeah, kinda.
Lenticular clouds, huh? I'll have to keep an eye out for those. What other weird clouds are there?
If you see what look like pouches hanging under a storm cloud, those are mammatus clouds.
Mammatus clouds.
They mean the conditions are really turbulent.
They sound kind of scary.
Yeah, they look pretty dramatic. And for a really rare and beautiful one, look for noctilucent clouds. They glow electric blue high in the atmosphere, and you can only see them at dusk.
Wow. Electric blue clouds only at dusk.
Yeah.
That sounds magical. Okay, so we've talked about how clouds form the different types, but beyond just looking cool, What do clouds actually do for us?
Clouds are a lot more than just something pretty to look at. They're really important for our planet. They
Yeah.
affect the weather, climate
Yeah.
change, everything. They're the source of rain and snow, which we need for, ecosystems and agriculture. They also affect temperature and weather patterns because they reflect sunlight and they trap heat.
So they can both cool and warm the planet.
Yeah,
How does that work? What about the albedo effect?
exactly. The albedo effect is how much sunlight a surface reflects back. Clouds, especially the bright, thick ones like cumulonimbus clouds, they have a high albedo, so they reflect a lot of sunlight back into space, and that helps cool the planet. But they can also trap heat, which contributes to the greenhouse effect.
So clouds are kind of complicated. They can have opposite effects. What about climate change?
Climate change is making things even more complex. As the Earth gets warmer, the water cycle gets more intense, and that changes cloud patterns.
Oh, I see.
Scientists are trying to figure out how those changes will affect global temperatures. Some studies say that more clouds could help cool the planet, but others say that some types of clouds could make the warming worse.
So understanding clouds is important for figuring out climate change.
It is. Clouds are a really important part of the climate puzzle. How they behave can have a big impact on the future of our planet. And it's not just about climate models either. Cloud research is important for agriculture, aviation, all sorts of things.
We've been talking about seeing clouds with just our eyes, but I bet scientists have better ways to study them, right? Like, do they just use really powerful binoculars?
Not quite. We still use our eyes, but now we have all sorts of high-tech from above, so we can move, monitor precipitation, even analyze what they're made of.
Wow, satellites watching clouds. That's amazing. What else do they use?
Radar systems, those are essential for seeing inside clouds.
Seeing inside.
They send out radio waves that bounce off the particles in the cloud so we can learn about how high they are, how dense they are, and even if there's rain or snow in them. Then there's LIDAR. It uses lasers to measure the altitude, thickness, and movement of cloud layers really precisely.
LiDAR, that sounds futuristic. It's crazy how technology has changed how we understand something as simple as a cloud.
It really is. We've gone from just looking at clouds to using amazing technology to figure out their secrets. And every time we learn something new, we realize just how important clouds are for our world.
I used to think all clouds were basically the same, just fluffy things in the sky, but now I realize how different and complex they are.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, we're just scratching the surface. There's still so much we don't know about clouds.
So even those special cloud formations we talked about earlier, they're not just pretty. They can tell us stuff, right?
Definitely. Like lenticular clouds, they can tell us if there are strong winds and turbulence, especially near mountains. That's important for pilots and hikers. Mammatus clouds, they often mean there are going to be severe thunderstorms and unstable air masses. They give us a peek into the power of nature. And even those noctilucent clouds, they can give us clues about what the upper atmosphere is made of and how it behaves.
Wow, it's amazing how these things that seem so temporary and delicate can be so important for science. It's like they're sending us messages from the sky about our planet and how it works.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Clouds are always changing, always moving, but they're also powerful forces that shape our world in ways we're only just beginning to understand.
This has been an incredible journey into the world of clouds. I'm seeing them totally differently now, not just as pretty shapes, but as an active part of how the Earth works.
I'm glad to hear that. And I hope you'll keep looking up with that sense of curiosity and wonder. The sky is like a never-ending show, and clouds are the stars. And every time you look up, you get to see something amazing.
I'm definitely going to appreciate clouds more now. Before this, I never really thought about them much.
That's what's cool about learning new things.
Yeah, it helps you see the world in a new way.
Exactly. Even the most everyday things can become fascinating.
I'm already trying to figure out what the clouds are telling me.
Like learning a new language.
Yeah, the language of the sky.
Once you know it, you can understand what the weather's going to do.
I can't wait to try it out. We've learned so much about clouds, how they form the different kinds, how they affect the weather and climate change, even the cool technology scientists use to study them.
Yeah, we covered a lot.
From those tiny water droplets all the way to powerful thunderstorms.
It's been a pretty awesome journey.
Definitely.
We hope you've enjoyed it and learned some cool stuff.
I know I have.
Remember, the sky is always changing, always amazing, and clouds are a big part of that.
So next time you look up, take a minute to really look at those shapes up there. Think about what's going on up there and how we're all connected to it.
It's pretty incredible.
And on that note, we wrap up our deep dive into the world of clouds. Do you have any topic that you would like to have explained? Drop it in the comments.